Hi, guys. We are back. Yes, we are back. We are live. Episode 64 of Susio Sports presented by Gel Blasters and Inplay Dogs. We got a lot to get into. Unexpectedly, as we were getting ready for the show, um, Jimmy Butler decided to get traded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we got NBA trade deadline just going absolutely insane right now.
I love it. This been a fun week.
It's been crazy. It started with if y'all have not been following us on
It
Twitter
started
and
with
whatnot,
Luka's a Laker.
Lucas, look at this Lakers fan right here, guys. Look at this Lakers fan right here.
I only put this on for tonight.
Luka is a Laker. Yes, Luka is a Laker. That's where it all got kicked off. And that night we were in that marathon space that started like right when the trade dropped, and then I don't think we ended that space until like 4 in the morning that morning. But yeah, and we brought on a special guest tonight because like I want to say it was sometime the next day, it was sometime Sunday maybe. I think I saw the tweet, and I saw our guest Chris Curto. I always butcher people's names, and I always try to make sure I get it right because I know how I am about that kind of stuff. Chris Kurtoval. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. Chris, did I get it right?
You're very close. It's Cradaville, but it's a tough last name.
Cradaville.
So I'm going to give you full credit on that.
I was working on it. I was working on it. I was really working. I was like, I got to get this name right.
Not bad at all.
But hey, I got close.
Yeah, no, close enough, man.
So, Chris, just introduce yourself to the audience and kind of give us a little bit of background and insight on who you are.
Yeah. Hey, my name's Chris Cradaville. I'm a lawyer who practices commercial litigation in Dallas, Texas. I'm a lifelong Mavs fan. I was at, as a little boy, the first ever Mavs game in 1980 with my now late father. So I am literally a day one Mavericks fan. Have always loved the team, and Saturday night, Sunday morning was really, really hard, really brutal. And I found out about the trade as I was getting ready to go to bed about midnight on Saturday, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't sleep a whole lot on Saturday night, and then on Sunday morning, my 14-year-old, my 10-year-old get up. They love Luka. Had to explain that this had happened, and they were asking why. And I didn't really have a really good explanation because on a basketball level, as great a player as Anthony Davis is, this trade doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a Mavericks perspective. And I think almost everyone who's looked at it, with the possible exception of Charles Barkley and Kendrick Perkins, who are, they have that big man bias, virtually every other analyst, serious observer of the game, has said from a basketball perspective, this doesn't make any sense for the Dallas Mavericks. And so if it's not about basketball, what's it about? And I put down some thoughts kind of at the intersection of basketball and business and state of Texas politics and the effort to legalize gambling in the state of Texas. And I think this trade is right at the intersection of all of that. I wrote it up for a few friends on a personal Facebook page. One of those friends is a prominent personal injury lawyer in Austin by the name of Adam Lowy. Adam tweeted it out on X, and it went from there. And I think that's how you gentlemen saw it. And it's gotten about 8 million unique views on X, which is that's a lot unless you're Elon Musk.
Yeah, it caught our eye because the way we have our podcast page like curated on X is it's nothing but sports and news and different things like that to keep us in tune with it. And I want to say it was either my personal page or the podcast page, one of the two. I came across it and I was like, hey, this seems pretty interesting. I think we should have this guy on. and I reached out, and next thing you know, here we are. So just
Absolutely.
kind of give everybody who has not seen the tweet or the Facebook post or whatever, kind of give them what was your premise about where you see how this trade kind of intersected in non-basketball means, state of Texas gambling, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So absolutely. If we accept that this wasn't basketball based, we got to say, what was this actually about? And I start thinking about how the ownership of the Mavericks has changed in the last year. We were lucky as Mavericks fans to have Mark Cuban as our owner for 25 years. And Cuban was passionate and he loved basketball. He was a fan before he was an owner. He wanted to win. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he, did some crazy stuff, but nobody ever questioned that Mark Cuban wanted to win. So about a year ago, Cuban sold 77% of the team to the Adelson Dumont family out of Las Vegas. And the Adelson family, they are the principal owners of the Sands Casino Corporation, one of the largest gambling enterprises in the world. They built the Venetian. They built and operate the Venetian Macau in China. They've got a huge portfolio of gambling related enterprises, particularly in the Far East. And when they bought the team, they were pretty upfront about what they wanted. They are not Mark Cuban. They are not passionate about basketball. They are not lifelong NBA fans or Mavs fans the way Cuban was. They were upfront that they viewed the Dallas Mavericks as the key to turn the lock to unlock the largest untapped gambling market in the entire United States, which is the state of Texas. 30 million people live in Texas. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, we've got virtually no gambling, legal gambling, I mean. We've got our state lottery. We might have some charity bingo. That's literally about it. There's no FanDuel. There's no DraftKings. There's certainly no casinos. There's no table gaming. There's no slot machines. There's no sports books. You've got this huge market, 30 million people, a lot of whom want to gamble, and they don't have an outlet to do it. And so here comes the Adelson family, and they said, we're going to buy the Mavs. The Mavs are a couple of years away from needing a new arena. American Airlines Center is going to be 30 in 2030, and that's when the lease expires. And so in 2031, the Dallas Mavericks need a new arena. And we, the Adelson family, we're going to deliver that arena, and it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be the centerpiece of a Las Vegas style destination casino resort. We're not talking some little riverboat gambling operation. We are talking a first-rate Vegas style casino resort with the Mavs arena as part of the package. And that's what they came here to do. That's why they bought the team. That is their stated goal. And they own actually 108 acres of land in suburban Dallas in a town called Irving. And it's the old Texas Stadium site where the Cowboys played before AT&T Stadium was built. 108 acres. They've already bought it. They're ready to build. Sometimes they call it the Venetian Dallas. That's kind of the name of the project.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to go on that. There's only one problem. Gambling is not legal right now in the state of Texas. So for them to fulfill their goal and build this ambitious development, they need to change Texas law. In fact, they don't need to just change Texas law. They need to change the state of Texas Constitution. And to do that, they need to go to our state capitol in Austin and persuade the politicians to vote in favor of gambling, expanding gambling. And then that would go on the ballot in November, and the voters would vote for it. And there's a weird thing about Texas, guys. Our legislature only meets every other year for 4 months. Unlike most states, we do not have a full-time state legislature. They only meet from January to May in odd numbered years. And so if it doesn't get done from January to May in odd numbers years, it doesn't get done in terms of like new laws or changing the law. So the Adelsons, they're on the shot clock to change the law. And they're not billionaires for nothing. These are smart, ambitious people.
Right.
And they started this process even before they bought the Mavericks from Cuban. In 2021, legislative session, they tried to change the law. They gave a lot of money, campaign contributions to Texas politicians. They hired lobbyists. They did everything you can to change the law. Didn't work. They come back in 2023. Still don't own the Mavs, but they're cooking up this plan with Cuban because he's still a 25% owner of the team. He's still got an interest in this development succeeding. They tried to change the law in 2023. They fail again. Now it's 2025. They're back on the clock. They're trying to change the law. Our session began in January. We're now in February. They're not getting any traction whatsoever. And there's various reasons for that are unique to Texas politics that I can go into if you want. But it's basically we've got a mix of politicians like our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, who have a principled opposition to gambling. They believe it's like a pernicious social evil. They don't want to vote for it. So you've got your evangelical Christians, your Baptists. I mean, Texas is a red state, guys. These are powerful people in our state. A lot of powerful people led by the lieutenant governor believe gambling is evil. They won't even bring the bill to a vote on the floor of the Texas Senate. And then you've got some of the biggest casinos in the country that aren't in Vegas are in Oklahoma, right over the Red River, in tiny town of Thackerville, Oklahoma. The only reason there's a casino there is it's the closest point right now that you can legally put one to Dallas Fort Worth. So the day the Venetian Dallas opens, WinStar World Casino in Thackerville, Oklahoma goes out of business. Choctaw Casino right there across the Red River goes out of business. So those tribal casinos, Native American tribal casinos, are pouring money into Texas politics too. So you've got this alliance between people who have a principled opposition to gambling and people who, are benefiting from tribal donations to their campaign funds. Gambling's not making any progress. And if I were to turn on the Dallas, Texas local TV news right now, I'd probably see a political ad saying, hey, call your state rep, call your state senator, tell them you want legalized casino resort gambling in Texas. It'll do great things for the state. And who's paying for those ads? The Adelsons and Sands. And they're doing everything they can to change the law, and it hasn't worked. And they're now on the shot clock because 2031 sounds like it's a long time away. But when you're in the construction industry and you're building a development of this size and scale and complexity, that's like right around the corner. 2031 is not far away. And so if they don't get the law changed in this next legislative session, 2027, they're going to have a hard time building this project. And this project is the whole reason they bought the Mavericks. They might be able to do it in 2029. If they don't do it in 2029, man, why did they buy the team? The whole mission is a failure. They came here to use the Mavericks to build a destination resort casino, and the state won't change the law on gambling. And they're running out of ideas. What can we do to get the state politicians to change the law? Well, big campaign contributions haven't worked. They're our governor, Greg Abbott. They are literally Governor Abbott's biggest contributors. Advocacy ads telling people to call their state reps haven't worked. Hiring 100 of the best lobbyists in Austin, Texas hasn't worked. How do we do this? Well, they've tried every carrot that they've got. And when the carrot doesn't work, you got to go to the stick. You got to have a threat. You've got to have aggressive persuasion. You do it or else. And the or else is the threat of moving the Dallas Mavericks to Las Vegas, Nevada, where the Sands Corporation is based, where the Adelson family lives, and which is one of the largest, most prosperous cities in the United States that doesn't have an NBA franchise. And we've seen what Vegas has done over the last few years, starting with the NHL expansion, Golden Knights. Now they've won a Stanley Cup. And then, they brought in the Raiders from Oakland. They built that beautiful Allegiant Stadium, one of the best facilities in football for the Raiders. Now they're in the process of bringing the Oakland A's in Major League Baseball, also from Oakland, coming to Las Vegas. So they want the big four, and the only one of the big four that they don't have right now is the NBA. But one of their leading citizens, the Adelson family, some of the wealthiest people on the planet, not billionaires, we're talking super billionaires, own the Dallas Mavericks, and they can't get what they want from the state of Texas. And their whole reason for buying the Mavericks is being frustrated, is being blocked right now. So what I think is going on here is the Adelson family and the Sands Casino Corporation want to come back to Texas in 2027 for our legislative session and say, you, Texas legislature, you legalize gambling, you put it on the ballot for the voters to vote on, or we're taking the Dallas Mavericks to our hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I'm not saying they actually want to move them. I think what they want is a monopoly on casino gambling in the fourth largest metro area in the country, which is Dallas Fort Worth.
Exactly.
But they need a credible threat to make that happen. They can't get there with the carrots, so they're switching to the stick. And the stick is do what we want, or we're moving our team that we own free and clear back to Las Vegas. They don't want to do it. Gambling market's saturated in Vegas, whereas it's an untapped market here. But without that threat, there's not really a path to get gambling legalized in Texas. So, gentlemen, that's what I think is going on here. Now, how that interacts with the Luka trade? Well, if the Mavs were to threaten to move right now, or prior to Saturday night, people would have laughed at it. They were in the finals in June. They've got a generational young superstar, 25 years old, already a 5-time first-team NBA player. I mean, that's unprecedented. That's LeBron level stuff. That's Kobe level stuff. And here's this, this chunky Serbian kid from Europe, pulling that off. But I mean, he's, I think, one of the top 5, maybe one of the top 3 players in the world. And the Mavs weren't going anywhere as long as Luka was here. The threat to move them would not be credible. Every game is sold out. Every Luka jersey is being sold. There are murals of Luka downtown. Little kids go to school wearing Luka shirts. TV ratings are good. They got a new TV deal, right? If you've got all of that going for you, you can't really even threaten to move the team because the state politicians would say, you can't move the team. The NBA Board of Governors would never let you leave the 4th largest media market in the country. So to some extent, for this threat that they need to break up the logjam on gambling, for that threat to be viable, for it to be believable, they need the Mavericks to suck. They need the Mavericks to be less popular in 2027 than they are today. They need the Mavericks to be less popular in 2029 than they are today, so that they can go to the legislature and say, there are empty seats at American Airlines Center. American Airlines Center is an out-of-date facility. The lease is about to expire in 2030. We need a new arena. There's no political will to get it done in Dallas. We're moving unless you legalize gambling. Legalizing gambling is the one thing that you can do to save your NBA franchise in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I think a lot of our state politicians would be moved by that threat. And I think that might be the path to how they finally break the logjam, get gambling legalized in Texas, and get what they came here to get, which is a destination resort casino, a monopoly on the casino gaming market in North Texas, and a beautiful new arena for the Mavs in the process.
Man, that is, I mean, when I first read it Sunday and I kept going back to it, I looked at it and I was like, this is plausible. Because at first, I'm not gonna lie, when I first read it, I was like, I don't think so. And then the more and more I kept reading it and looking into it, and I think it was a back and forth I got into with a good friend of mine from back home in New Orleans, because I live down here in Houston, so I know about what you mean with the Texas State Legislature and all of that, and the gambling and the red state. Like, I'm fully immersed in it, been here for about 20-some years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But a buddy of mine, he was like, nah, they would want to expand and this and that. And I was like, well, yes, from the league's perspective, expansion would probably be good. But think about it. You get you get a $10 to $12 billion expansion fee if you expand 2 teams, right? What about if you get billions of dollars funded to you over several years, over the course of, decades? Billions of dollars funneled to you over the course of decades, as opposed to that one-time $10 to $12 billion fee. Which would you prefer, the long game or the short game? You would prefer the long game.
Absolutely.
Especially if you have somebody that's already firmly entrenched in Vegas, that they could take their team and move them to Vegas. And now you have this entertainment resort casino with an NBA franchise in the middle of it, in one of the best, most popular travel destination markets in the world. it does make some sense. Like there is some plausible explanation to behind this theory that if they don't get what they want, they're basically going to try to force the state's hand by saying, "Hey, we'll move the Mavericks."
And keep in mind, the NBA doesn't necessarily lose that franchise expansion fee. They can have the best of both worlds. You let the Adelsons move the Mavs to Las Vegas, where the Adelsons know how to do business. I mean, they're
Right.
that family. They're the kings of Vegas, and they know how to make money in the gambling industry and make that move work. And then suddenly you've got Dallas Fort Worth with about 7.5 going on 8 million people sitting empty without an NBA franchise. You charge one of our, we don't have a shortage of rich guys in Texas. We've got plenty of Texas billionaires. You charge them the franchise expansion fee for the new, Dallas Renegades or whatever you're going to call them, a new replacement franchise for the Mavericks, kind of like with Houston when the Oilers moved to Tennessee. It took a few years, but here comes the NFL, and they sell Bob McNair the rights to the Texans franchise, and people still miss the Oilers, but we're Texans fan now. The same thing would happen here.
I believe the Houston went about 6 or 7 years in between the Oilers leaving and the Texans arriving, so it wasn't.
I think that's right.
It wasn't even a decade that they went without that. Chris, we really appreciate your explanation of all of this, and I'm glad you broke it down for us the way you did, because I read it and I understood it, but it's trying to translate what you said into like something credible and believable that other people can understand. Basically, putting it in layman's terms. Like the way you did that for us, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you giving our audience that breakdown, because there's a lot more at play sometimes with these moves that teams make, and we just appreciate you coming in and explaining that to us from your perspective.
Thanks, guys. It was an honor to be with you this evening. Have a great show, and thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Man,
so what he said, I'm not new to it. I kind of heard about that a while ago, as far as the casino and gambling part of it, and kind of why they bought the Mavericks or wanted to buy the Mavericks was because of them wanting to bring the casinos to Dallas. Of course, they knew coming in like it was going to be hard, because people have been trying to bring gambling and casinos and everything to Texas in general for years. So the Luka part of it, like he said, I love the way it kind of played, the idea of how it plays into it, because you have to, you pretty much have to make the team undesirable, so that way either you can push the narrative either way, as far as either moving them or them staying and all of that. So I mean, the only thing I don't agree with was what he said in the beginning. From a basketball standpoint, me personally, I don't think the move was bad, because I think with AD, and especially with the trade that they did with Philly yesterday, sorry. I think, like I said in the beginning, it spaces the floor more. And you bring in, I don't think you're losing a lot, because AD really brings you the same numbers that Luka does. The only thing that you're missing is the assists. But now you're putting the ball in Kyrie's hands more, so the assists are going to go up.
There's a lot of basketball stuff I think that makes sense about it. There's some of it that does. On both sides. The biggest thing that doesn't make sense to people is that you traded a younger star with more career left, who's in his prime,
6 years,
right, for a guy who's older, more injured, and nearing the end of his prime.
First off, Drake, watch your mouth. Appreciate it. Guests are gone. I can be me now. You watch your goddamn mouth. Watch your goddamn mouth. And yeah, the Lakers gotta stay relevant, because we are the NBA. Outside of Boston, don't nobody care about the rest of y'all. The hell? Catch up.
The Knicks.
Catch up.
I mean, there are other teams that people do care about, and the way things are going now, is crazy, because
and Dre,
no, not you. He talking about Dre on 290, fool.
Yeah, that Dre.
The other
Luka,
joint, you know, it's
Luka
two of
was
y'all in here.
Luka was a pawn though. I agree with you. He was a man, I don't even know how to explain that. He got sent to a better situation for him because LA is a bigger market. So you're putting one of the biggest, the third, I ain't gonna say third, but he's one of the three biggest European stars in the NBA right now, being him, Joker, and Giannis. And now you're taking him out of Dallas, which was a big market, into a ocean in LA. So for him, it's great. For the Lakers, it's great because again, we're now leaning into post LeBron.
Right.
We're not even looking at current. Current is fine. Next year is fine, but we're looking 5 to 10 from now. Where for Dallas, this move was still a great move for them right now to stay in contention. Because again, like I said, I think it spaces the floor well. It puts the ball solely in Kyrie's hands to distribute, to score, all of that. So I think it's going to work out great for both franchises in the short and long term. So
my only drawback, like the positive, I mean, you did a good job of stating the positives for both franchises. The negatives that I see on both sides of this trade before we move on to everything else, because there's a lot of NBA stuff to get into. The negatives I see, like for the Lakers, is that you have Luka and you have LeBron now, but you still need a big. Because you lost your main big man, and you already needed another one before you traded him. So trading the one solid big that you had, now you really need another big. So that's one thing on the drawback for the Lakers. The other thing, the drawback for the Lakers is, of course, you know, Luka's conditioning, his health, whatever. They people call it into question. I'm not real. I think it's just this year that it's been a problem because, like I've stated over and over again, the last 4 years, he's played in the most minutes per game. And last year was his first time playing in 70-plus games since his rookie year. So he played the most minutes per game last year at 37 and a half, and the most games since his rookie year is 70.
Luka and he was at an MVP this summer. Boy.
He was at an MVP level and led the league in scoring last year.
I don't think people realize, like, he's really in a better situation than he was. In the sense of, I mean, Luka's about to slim down and be a whole different player.
Better situation is debatable still to me because I can't say he's in a better or worse situation until I see like what it ends up like. I'm not going to make a judgment on that. But what I do see negative for the Mavericks is that yes, AD is older. He's also more injured. So you were saying that this guy is out of shape and he doesn't keep himself in shape, and you don't want to invest in him because he doesn't, you know, take care of himself. And you bring in a guy whose nickname is literally street clothes. Like that logic does not click to me. It does not make sense to me. If you're going to talk about the way this guy was not committed to his health and success, but then you bring in another guy who's always injured. Like that does not compute to me. That does not make sense to me. It never clicked to me why you would get rid of one guy who's younger, who has a conditioning problem, and you trade for an older guy who has an injury problem. Conditioning and injury are two different things. Conditioning, I can do something about. Injury, I cannot. So that it just does not make sense to me. But the part that does make sense, like you said, it does space the floor. It does give them that added level of post defense and rim protection that they did not have as much before. They had some, but not to the level of what Anthony Davis can provide. So it does change the basketball dynamic for both teams. Another positive with the Lakers, it takes a lot of the playmaking ability out of LeBron's hands and off of his shoulders.
Yep.
Giving him a rest from having to be such a playmaker this late in this stage of his career, that helps him prolong his career and helps him play better, more efficiently with the minutes that in the games that they are going to play him in. So there are positives and negatives on both sides. It's really a matter of perspective.
And I think like we saw last night, we had Jackson Hayes step up huge last night. It's going to force the bigs that we do have to play better. Bringing in, I don't think Clubber's going to see the floor as of right now. We're going to see how that goes into 3 p.m. tomorrow, because he's still a movable piece. Markieff Morris is a great pickup vet. He was on the championship team during the pandemic championship. So I like all of it. I mean, there's still more moves for everybody to make between now and 3 p.m. deadline tomorrow. So you never know. There's still a couple bigs out there. Vucevic is on the block. Clint Capella. The Bulls are up in the ante on Vucevic because they know everybody wants him. But I like a piece like a Clint Capella, like a.
Don't forget about Robert Williams. Robert Williams in Portland.
Yeah, Robert Williams also. Andre Drummond, he's a good piece to bring back from the championship team. Also, so it's a couple moves that can still be made going into that 3 p.m. deadline tomorrow.
My thing is make sure y'all stay tuned in with at Susio Sports on Twitter. Set your alerts for us because if you're not paying attention to Shams or whoever it is that may be breaking NBA news, typically what happens is I have all the alerts set up on my phone.
So it's saying we got 300 on.
And what I got
a lot of that spam and computer. I could be wrong.
It's a lot of, you just set your alerts up for us and we'll be good to go. I normally get the alert and I quote tweet it right out like within a minute or so. So if you're not paying attention to it, pay attention to ours and I'll get it quote tweeted out like as soon as possible, as soon as the tweet comes out from whoever it is about the trade news. That's kind of how we did it Saturday night. You know, we're all chilling, watching the Royal Rumble, like excited about Jey Uso's win and whatnot, and you know, watching the post Rumble show and just, you know, kind of whatever. And next thing you know, this trade drops out of nowhere, and it's just it just boom, just blew up, and
yeah. Oh my man,
exactly.
Hey man, hold on, real quick. I don't know if they still watching, but shout out to our little homie Cortland watching us tonight.
Hey, I didn't realize little homie was watching.
Dre just sent us a picture of the family while tuned in tonight. Shout out to young Court.
Hey, our youngest fan in the building. Nice. But yeah, man, it was just crazy because we weren't expecting this. And then like I was telling everybody that night when we were in the space, I was like, you know, you have to read the tea leaves on stuff like this, right? So when they say they kept this quiet, nobody knew, and people were like, did Shams get hacked or something like that? And I'm like, no.
They personally told Shams.
I was like, if you listen to what they said, they kept it quiet. When you keep, this is how trades used to come out. Like y'all are so conditioned and so used to everything being leaked and you knowing beforehand that you think that when something surprises you, you're like, no, there's got to be a fake. Like, no, this is how businesses used to be conducted. We didn't know this stuff until it was actually printed in a newspaper or something. Or somebody came on the radio or television and said, we have breaking news. That's when you heard about it. This has turned Twitter and social media and everything has turned everybody so upside down to where you actually get breaking news and it catches everybody off guard and it's a big news story like this and you think it's fake. When you keep things that close to the vest and it's just between us and the less people that, like people were saying, I can't believe LeBron didn't know. I can't believe J Kidd didn't know. I can't believe Luka didn't know. The more people you tell, the more people it has a chance of leaking out. Especially if you tell LeBron and all them dudes at Clutch Sports and everything, it's gonna be everywhere.
But the LeBron one is interesting only because throughout the history of LeBron in the NBA, whatever team he's on, even the Lakers up until this trade, they don't make moves without LeBron knowing, or in the room, or in the know. You know what I mean? Because so the fact that I think people were reading too much into that part of him not knowing meant this isn't his team anymore, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's that. I just think they just didn't want to They just didn't want everybody in on it. They wanted to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want LeBron to be like, no, we got to keep him, and
Mm-hmm.
they needed to move the pieces that they needed to. Now, I think damn near the entire team was on the trading block for this move outside of LeBron. So, I mean, he was shocked, he was surprised, but he understood it, and he's fine with it. I mean, Luka, from everything I've seen posted, Luka looks ecstatic and happy to be in LA. Who wouldn't? It's LA, wearing the purple and gold, and he gets to play with LeBron for a while. At least for this season, maybe next. So I like it. Like I said, as a Laker fan, I'm excited. My Luka jersey's on the way. 77. I like it. I think the bigger one is that Jimmy one.
Bro, I was just getting ready to transition into that one, man, because
that's interesting. That is.
We got. I mean, I'm just like it came up, and I was like, okay, let's get ready for the show. I'll take a shower real quick, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I go in there and I look. I'm like, oh shit. And I waited because sometimes the kids, like their alerts sometimes come before my alerts for whatever reason. But since I got my new phone, my alerts come first. So I was like, hey, guess what happened? Jimmy just got traded. They was like, what? No, are you serious? Bro, let me tell you. First thing they said is this real? Did Shams get hacked? I was like, no, bro. It's not. It's the same thing like the other night, man. Like y'all tripping. But nah, bro, it's wild because remember we got the report that said he wouldn't sign an extension with Golden State.
Mm-hmm. That was the first one.
Right, and so we're just like, oh damn, okay, we'll cross Golden State out. Maybe he going to Phoenix or something. Who's going to waive their trade? Is Bradley Beal going to waive his no trade clause? Are they going to trade KD? Like, what are we going to do? And then you see Jimmy buckets to the Warriors for Wiggins, a few other players, and a protected first. And it's like, what? Like, are we serious right now? Did this really just happen? Like, you know what I'm saying? And the craziest thing about it is a fan broke the news to the Heat in the middle of a game. Right behind the Heat bench. They had no clue what was going on. He broke the news to him mid-game. Let me see. Hold up. Here we go. Okay.
Richardson, Dennis Schroeder, and Andrew Wiggins. We robbed them. First round pick protected.
Matter of fact, let me give y'all the video so y'all can see where is it. Oh, bam! Here we go. And where y'all can see that.
I was actually just watching it. That was kind of funny.
Got Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, and Andrew Wiggins. We robbed them. First round pick protected. No, they didn't get out the year. No. I swear to God.
So Kevin Love even was asking, like, what year is the pick? And they said they didn't give it out. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's you know what? Hold up. Because see, Sierra hate. Cortland knows. I know he knows my voice for sure. I know he knows Key's voice.
We're definitely Coco Melon.
We're definitely his Coco Melon. Trust me. His father is doing a great job raising him and teaching him what good, solid sports talk sounds like. Damn it. We won't stand for no hating here.
Shout out to his father.
Shout out to Dre for being a good
black dad.
Shout out to Dre, man. Being a solid black father.
Great African-American father there.
Great father. Like we were saying. So I think that people are so jaded now that they always think that something is gonna be a glitch, a fix, a hack, or something. Yeah, a fan broke the news to the Heat sitting behind their bench.
Yeah.
So
because a lot of times during the game, they, like we saw with the Luka one, sometimes they got their phones, sometimes they don't. So a lot of, like with that, as soon as Shams breaks it, a lot of people's alerts are on, so it's easy for them to be like, hey, y'all just traded Jimmy. So,
bro,
and Jimmy at the crib anyway. So,
yeah, exactly. What's crazy is the way I have the alert set up on the account. I mean, you've seen it pop up. Like, I've even had times where basketball news will break, and I'm like, why the hell am I getting an Adam Schefter alert right now? And Adam Schefter will be breaking NBA news sometimes because it'd be just that crazy. But see, exactly, she says she's gonna be our biggest hater. And look what Dre. Dre says he knows us, he loves us, and Kendrick Lamar. We are his favorites. Okay,
sounds like
we are his favorite. It's Susio Sports and Kendrick Lamar. That's what Cortland likes to listen to. So take that in your pipe and smoke it. Bam.
Take that. Damn.
But yeah, like my thing is this move for Golden State, the same thing I see it for Dallas.
Win now.
These are win now moves because these guys don't have that much left. Like Kyrie and AD have a little bit more time than Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, but they're not that far behind those guys. They're maybe 3, 4, 5 years younger than those guys. So they have a little bit more time. But given Kyrie and KD's injury history and whatnot, how much more time do they really have? So it's like these are win now moves for these franchises, and they're pushing all their chips to the table. And it's like, hey,
we're going into that second half of the season. All-Stars next week. So we're going into that second half, and this is that second half push. That's why I look where the trade deadline is, because it really pushes into that second half push. And Golden State, this is a move that says we're trying to get another chip right now.
Right.
The Dallas move still, even with trading out Luka, it's to me still saying we're still trying to contend. We're just now changing the way that we want to contend.
Right.
So,
right. It's just funny to me because I broke this down one time, long time ago. Dre on 290 might remember. I don't know if Mark will remember, but this was back like on days when I did radio. I want to say in like KCOH or so. And we were looking at the trade deadline for the Rockets or something like that. And I said, the funny thing about the NBA season is the way it breaks down. When it starts, football season is already underway and under swing, and nobody's really paying that close attention until Christmas Day when they have their big showcase. Sometime January, Martin Luther King is another big showcase day for the NBA as well. Not even a few weeks later after Christmas. Sometime around there, you have the actual midway 40, 41, 42 game point in the season for NBA teams. Between that and like about a month, 3 or 4 weeks later, you have the trade deadline. Right after the trade deadline, you have the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, you got about 30 or so games left in the regular season. That's when teams start making that stretch run push for the playoffs. So NBA trade deadline used to be it used to have a lot of buzz. There was a lot of moves and whatnot made. Over the years, it kind of flattened out, and you didn't really see as many big blockbuster moves being made as much, right? That all changed this year. This year, they flipped that on its head. They're like, no, we're going back to what we used to do, how we used to conduct business, where everybody isn't going to leak everything a week before it happens. Everybody's going to be able to foreshadow these moves because we're going to come out of nowhere with them. Now, you saw the Jimmy Butler thing coming, but nobody really knew how it was going to play out.
mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, you almost knew, like, yeah, he's going to force his way to X, Y, and Z team. Nobody knew. And then him getting traded to the team that he said he wouldn't sign an extension to, that was an even bigger curveball to that whole thing.
No, I think he put that out. I think Jimmy put that out there to throw everybody off. So the other, either to up what Miami could get because he still maybe cared. I don't know. But I think that was Jimmy just throwing stuff off. I think the whole time the move was Jimmy to Golden State. I just think him putting that out there was to throw the media off and stuff like that.
I don't even think it was a smoke screen.
I think he always was going to Golden State.
I don't even think it was a smoke screen. I think that was something where he felt like, why would I want to go there and be, under Steph and under Draymond and this and that? I'm not sure how much more that team has left in them. Why would I want to go there and sign? And then he may have talked to Steph or Dre or, Steve Kerr or somebody with the organization, and they may have changed his mind. Like, hey, bro, look, if you come here, this is what our plan is for this year and next year or whatever. Because we know you got this year and that player option for next year on your contract. So we can tell you for this year, and if you opt in for next year, or if you want to sign an extension, here's what we're thinking. And it changed his mind. The reason why I say that is because there's been a lot of times where guys will take, like, let's say free agency meetings or something like that with a team. And they may be like, they'll say, I didn't really see myself signing here, or it wasn't one of my top choices. But after meeting with so-and-so and talking to so-and-so, they really convinced me that this is where I need to be. And so there's been times where we've seen guys that will make moves and whatnot that we don't see coming. And it's not until they actually meet the people that they're either going to be playing with or playing for, and they talk to them in that face-to-face and they get an idea of what's to come. And then they're like, okay, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And the best thing is for Jimmy, he's not locked into anything beyond this year, because even though that 53 or whatever $1 million player option is on the table, he's not obligated he's not obligated to opt in. So it's just there's a lot to it, and I love it. The De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio trade was something I kind of didn't see that one coming either, to be honest with you, because
that's actually my favorite one. Like, even being
it really is.
It being in the West,
mm-hmm.
that's actually the one that made the most. That's going to make the most splash.
It made the most sense to me because you're pairing two young stars who have such a long time left in their career.
Fox has a lot of time left.
When you look at all these other star pairings and whatnot, Kyrie and AD, Luka and LeBron, De'Aaron and Wemby, and then you look at Jimmy with Steph and them, De'Aaron and Wemby are like by far the youngest duo out of all of these duos.
Mm-hmm.
That duo is actually younger than Tatum and Brown in Boston right now.
Yes.
So this just lets you know, like, how much longer these guys, sign, keep them extended, injury-free, healthy or whatever. This just lets you know how much longer that they have available to them to keep their window open. So there's just so much going on. And the craziest thing about it is a lot of these big moves happened in the West. They didn't even happen in the East. The only thing that happened with the East is the Jimmy Butler thing. But then, do you really believe Miami's a better team with what they got in that trade as opposed to?
This is rebuild. I think this is definitely rebuild. Once you trade Jimmy, and even though Wiggins is a great piece,
mm-hmm.
he's not Jimmy level in my opinion, but he's a great piece. And then you lure another big star into Miami, or you draft.
And right now, the Heat are at the 6 seed position. They're a game ahead of the Pistons for that 7 seed, which teeter-totters on the play-in.
Oh, they definitely got slip.
Wait, but here's the thing, though. Because when you look at the Bucks at the 5 seed, they're 2 games ahead of the Heat. And like we talked about earlier in that space, 5 to 11 in the East is separated, I'll say 6 to 11 in the East is separated right now by 5 games, 5.5 games. So there's not much. There's a little playroom in there, but not much. The Heat are actually only 2 games behind the Bucks for the 5th seed, and 3 games behind the Pacers for the 4th seed. So the Heat are in a position where they could go up or down, but they could still find themselves making at least the play-in in the playoffs if they do have a backslide after this trade. So, I mean, there's just so much in the NBA. We just got to wait until tomorrow at 3 Eastern at the trade deadline and just see what's going on. But I don't know, man. It's just I'm glad they're restoring the feeling of the NBA trade deadline, what it used to be like, and how trades used to really surprise us and catch us off guard, and we were all excited about the way these new deals went down and where these teams might end up and where these players could end up and how they may end up playing with other players and whatnot. We're starting to get a lot of that excitement back, and I, for one, am definitely here for it. That being said, I'm just gonna take a screenshot. Sometimes of what I'll do is I'll look at where these teams are uh, at the trade deadline, and then take a look at where they end up at the end of the season, and just kind of see who made what deals, and did those teams actually end up better off or worse off. Of course, factor in the injury time, so on and so forth. But there's just a lot to peel back when you look at that onion of how the trades and everything have gone down and what we got in front of us. But enough of that, because I know it's a lot, and I know it's big news, and I know everybody wanted to talk about it, and that's what we wanted to open up the show with, to get our guest in, because like you said, he's a commercial lawyer up in Dallas Fort Worth. We don't want to hold him because he probably got lawyer shit to do for his job. But NBA trade deadline is up. It closes tomorrow, I want to say 3 or 4 Eastern. We will, like I said, follow us at Susio Sports on Twitter, X, however you want to call it. His mama name is Twitter. I'm gonna call him Twitter. But follow us, set your alerts up, and trust me, I will be getting you out those alerts as soon as they come about. If it's big enough, if it's like that trade where, who was it? The Rockets traded for some backup guard who can't shoot worth of shit from the Celtics for a second round pick who they probably don't cut. If it's something like that, don't expect an alert from us. I'm not gonna quote tweet that. I'm probably not even gonna retweet that. Like, that is not a move that's gonna move the needle or do anything for either one of those teams. So don't expect it. But I mean, if you should hear like Robert Williams gets traded to the Lakers, or somebody else gets moved or traded or here or there, or whatever it is, follow us. We'll try to get that information out to you as soon as possible. But all that being said and done, it's time to get down to the real nitty-gritty. It's Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl, bro. It's Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl.
We're back.
We got a rematch. Got a rematch of Super Bowl 57, where we saw the Kansas City Chiefs dispatch the Philadelphia Eagles, and they basically, I mean, if you really want to get into it, I could say that, I mean, on a level, you could compare what those two guys did in that game. And you could say, like, did Jalen Hurts outplay, or did he outperform Patrick Mahomes in that game, or how did it end up, or so on and so forth. And like, the one thing I will say is, I thought that game was a greatly played game. I thought that, I felt like it could have gone either way, right? It could have really gone either way. And I really just think that what ended up happening, it happened for a reason. The Eagles didn't get it done for whatever reason. The Chiefs ended up pulling it out at the end. We are where we are, right? But this time around, it feels different. Like, that time, it felt like the Eagles kept the game close, and the Chiefs pulled out a close win like they were supposed to. And people are looking at this game, to me now, like, the point spread is Chiefs by 1.5 now, right? Mm-hmm. The over and under is 48.5. which is a decent number, you know, for a Super Bowl. Money line, Eagles are even money. This game is playing a lot closer to me. I can't remember what the point spread was on the last time they played, but to me, this game just feels a lot closer, and it feels a lot more something that like it can go either way. To be honest with you, and I think one of the main things I see is the Saquon Barkley factor behind that Eagles offensive line. Kansas City's defense is better than what it was a few years ago. However, that offense isn't as explosive, right? They're finding a way to get it done, but that offense isn't as explosive as it used to be, but that defense is a lot better. The Eagles, on the other hand, their defense isn't as good as it used to be. It's still really good, but it's not as good as it used to be. But that offense has a different element to it, and the offense isn't worse. It just has one of the best running backs in the game right now, arguably.
I will be honest.
Behind one of the biggest and baddest offensive lines in the game.
I think this might be one of the best defensive teams we've had in a very long time now.
You what? You think so? Bro, I swear, I will take
So,
that defense that they had a couple years ago against Kansas City as opposed to this one.
I know you're going to probably, because you're more analytical and number-wise than I am. I'm more of the eye test, and of course, being a fan, but like, I'm the hunger and the dog, the young, no pun intended, because there's a lot of Georgia boys on that team, but the young dogs that's on that team, you got Blankenship playing amazing right now. You got young Kenyon coming in playing fire. Defensive Rookie of the Year, if you want to be honest, outside of the other boy that we got, John Blank, sorry, spoke too much. But I don't know. I like this defensive team right now. Like, they're very hungry and they're playing great. I think that's the advantage more than the offense with Saquon is the unpredictability of the defense. And the way that D-line has been getting after quarterbacks all season, I like the matchup overall. I think offensively, that's the big part. Jalen Carter, the way Jalen Carter has been getting after the quarterback. Bro. The D-line in general, but the way Jalen Carter has been like just tossing offensive linemen and getting to the QBs, causing pressure. Whether he sacks you or not, it's just that pressure that he's been causing, which helps out the DNs and gives it. It's going to be a long day for Patrick, man. I really think it's going to be. I really think this game, it's going to look a little bit like when they played the Bucs. Only difference was Mahomes got hurt in that conference championship game coming into the Super Bowl, but it's gonna be that same type of pressure that he saw from the Bucs. I think he's gonna see that from us.
The one thing that I will say, the thing that I liked about the difference, what I see in that Eagles defense between then and now, then there was more pressure off the edge as opposed to now that defense gets pressure on the quarterback up the middle with Jalen Carter. Because you had those edge rushers where Brandon Graham was a couple years younger, and I forget the other edge rusher on the other side of Brandon Graham, but you had more pressure coming off the edge as opposed to up the middle. I think the pass defense was a lot more solid back then than what it is now. Because like this year, I've seen that defense give up more yards in the air a lot easier than what they did a couple years ago. So it's like a couple different things I see that's different with that defense. It's like I said, it's still really good. It's just different the way they play. The another major difference in this defense as opposed to that defense a couple years ago, there is much better linebacker play on that Philly defense this year than what it was 2 years ago.
And that secondary to me is playing a lot better.
Yeah, the secondary is starting to play better later on in the season. Like earlier in the year, it was like, damn, like they needed Saquon to do what he was doing to keep the ball away from the other offense. And as the year got on, I don't know whether it was coaching technique or what came together with them. I think it was honestly, when you pressure the pocket from the middle, you're right in the quarterback's face. That makes a huge difference. And then when the underneath coverage in front of you is good with those linebackers, and the underneath tackling on the run defense is good with those linebackers, then those DBs have a lot more pressure taken off of them as far as coverage and run support is concerned. So I think over time they began to trust each other more on that defense, and it grew into a more cohesive unit to where at the end of the season you could see where they all work together. And so I love when a defense stays good and they don't rely on the same calling card every single year. One of the things that I wanted to make sure I addressed when I talked about the differences in the Eagles defense between 2 years ago and now is something Julian Edelman brought up when he and I believe it was Rob Gronkowski were talking on a podcast about, right? We were talking about how the Steelers run the same crap on defense that they've always run every single year. They do not change their philosophy, right? One of those things is that they will cover a slot receiver with one of those outside edge linebackers, right? Edelman said, he says every time I would get at least 7 or 8 catches, sometimes 7, 8, 9 catches every game because I'm being guarded by one of these edge rusher linebacker types. He was like, as good of a coach as Mike Tomlin is, unfortunately, they do not change their defensive philosophy. They keep running the same thing every single time. So every time we play them, I know what to expect. They do not change. Whereas with the Eagles, they tweak and change their defense enough, but they shored up different parts of their defense. So now it's like, we're still going to have okay pressure off the edge, but we got crazy pressure up the middle. We shored up the linebackers now, so now we have better linebacker play in run and pass coverage. And our DBs are still pretty much the same, or they're still playing at a really high level. They may not be as good as they were before, but thank God we shored up these other 2 areas on our team to make sure that our DBs have some relief on the back end. So it's like they basically just shifted their focus and attention and tweaked different parts of their defense to keep that defense really good. They're just good in other areas now. They're not as, back end heavy or front end heavy. They're more balanced across the board on all 3 levels of the defense is what I'm trying to say. So I look forward to this game. The biggest thing I'm looking forward to, honestly, is the matchup between the Eagles offense and the Chiefs defense. Because that Eagles offense is in such tune to where they're going to ground and pound you, but they can also hit you with that play action pass. And Jalen Hurts is capable of throwing the ball and helping them win a game. He just hasn't had to do that in so long. Yeah. So if you look 2 years ago in that Super Bowl, he had to throw for 304 yards, run the ball 15 times for 70 yards for 3 touchdowns just to keep them within 3 points. He does not have to do that this time. Patrick Mahomes only threw for 182 yards in that Super Bowl. He threw for 3 touchdowns, 21, 27, 182 for 3 touchdowns. But he did not have to do as much because they ran. Kansas City ran for 158 yards in that Super Bowl. Their run game was clicking. They basically what's going to happen is you're going to see these 2 teams have a similar type of game. But this time, if the Chiefs are going to win and or keep it close with the Eagles, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be the one to throw for 300. Jalen Hurts is only going to be able to have to throw for maybe 200 because they're going to run the ball more. So I think you're going to see the opposite happen in this Super Bowl. I think you're going to see the Eagles going to run the ball, try to run the ball down to the Chiefs' throats, and the Chiefs are going to try to throw the ball all over the ballpark. They're going to mix in some run. Don't get me wrong. They're still relying – Isaiah Pacheco and those guys, they're still relying on the run game. They're still trying to take some of that pressure off Mahomes and Kelsey and company. But because they have possession receivers like D-Hop and they got game breakers like Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelsey is still one of the best receiving threats in playoff history. not just receiving threat, tight end, receiving threat in playoff history. So they're back to being explosive, not as explosive as they were before, but their pass game is back to being more explosive than what it was before. Natural tendency is going to be take advantage of Patrick Mahomes and his passing attack. So, and especially against that Eagles defense where they feel like they can take advantage of those DBs, they just have to make sure they block and give Mahomes enough protection. Though that's where I see those matchups happening on both sides of the ball when each team has the ball. I'm not even going to ask you who you think is going to win. I'm just going to ask you, give me a score prediction because I already know who you think is going to win. Just give me a score prediction.
A lot to a fucking little. This is redemption game, bro. Like, I don't even think people understand. Like, the people that are left from that Super Bowl team 2 years ago are so locked in because, like, the bad taste. Like, and I get it. Kansas City's locked in too because they're going for history, three-peat, first one in NFL history. So we also have history on our side that we stopped three-peats. So there's that. There's a lot of moving factors right now. So as far as the score, I'm gonna give a respectable to both sides 28-21. Like, it's going to be a 3 to 7 point swing. It's either 28-21, 28-25 or something, 31-28, 31-28. I'll go more like that.
I really
game, regardless.
I know typically people want to bet the over, that over 48 and a half, whatever that over is and whatever sports book you're looking at, but it's right around 48 and a half, just depending on where you're looking right now. But on this one, I'm tempted to bet the under just because I believe in the Eagles' run game. I believe the Chiefs' defense is set up to try to help stop that run game. Saquon Barkley and that offensive line is just on a different level. But when you have a team that's committed to the run as much as the Eagles are in defense, and then you have a team who, like the Kansas City Chiefs, who are playing good defense, who have committed more talent and efforts, in their offseason plans to that defense, and you still have an offense that's somewhat explosive, but they're also relying on the run game, and they haven't been scoring as much as they have in the last few years. I'm going to go with the under, and I'm seeing something like 24-21. I wouldn't be surprised 21-17. I'm gonna go Eagles. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go Eagles. I think it's just way too much Saquon in that offensive line. And the only way I see the Chiefs, I can't say the only way because I do see it as a good game, a really close game, a low scoring game. Because like I said, I'm going with the under. But I believe in these defenses more than I believe in these offenses. And I know that may sound crazy with Patrick Mahomes on one side, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley on the other side. But I feel as though, like, the stage is big and sometimes the lights get a little bright. I'm not saying that anybody's going to be extra nervous or anything. It's just that these games either go one or two ways. Either it's going to be a scoring fest at some point. Either it's going to start off with fireworks or it's going to end with fireworks. But there's going to be fireworks typically scored when you have a high-scoring game. However, I don't see this game going like that. I see this game being more strategic. I see this game being played closer to the vest because of the way both of these defenses are, and they know those offenses can take advantage of turnovers and whatnot. So I don't see these quarterbacks taking very many chances and doing stupid things or turning the ball over.
If there are turnovers, it's going to be more. If it's like any interceptions, it's because the D-backs or the linebackers read the routes and they jumped them. Like
exactly.
They played their defensive assignment exactly how they were supposed to. It's not going to be because the quarterback made, X, Y, and Z mistake or anything. It's just
like one play I know for sure the Kansas City linebackers need to watch out for, and they need to be on the ready for. And it can't be the DBs. It's got to be the linebackers that got to make a play on this. Is if the Eagles go to that RPO fake handoff and they go for that short slant or that quick hitter, it's going to have to be those linebackers. If it's those in-breaking routes on those RPO pass option plays, If it's the outbreaking routes or deeper routes, it's going to have to be the DBs. But typically on RPOs, you need the linebackers to stop that RPO pass. And I think that's the one play that the Kansas City linebackers need to watch out for, because they're going to get sucked into that run play and that handoff with Saquon. And they're also got to watch out for Jalen pulling it and taking it around the edge. So this is why a lot of the times those handoffs to Saquon, he gets so much space in between the tackles, is because those edge rushers are looking for Jalen Hurts to pull the ball and take off around the edge. And so they have to maintain gap integrity and responsibility, setting that edge on the outside. However, if you set that edge too wide, or you get in poor technique and one of those linemen get their hands on you, you're out of position. Saquon Barkley is going to hit the hole quickly, and he's going to, wiggle his way through there. And next thing you know, he's at the second and third levels of your defense and taking off for a big run. So the thing is, though, they're going to try to do that against Kansas City, who has Chris Jones. And the only way you can effectively run on a defensive line with Chris Jones is to try to run away from him or run directly at him. I've seen teams where they go at these type of defenders because they feel like they're going to take themselves out of the play by trying to make a play. So there's two different philosophies that I've seen teams employ. However, I think the Eagles are smart. They're going to know, like, Chris Jones is a disruptor. We shouldn't take too many chances running at him. I think that they'll test it, but I also think that the Chiefs won't tempt their fate by trying to do too much to try to stop the run or over pursue or anything like that. Those guys are pretty smart on that defense. Steve Spagnuolo does like to bring a lot of pressure. So I look for them to try to stop the runs on first and second down, put them in a lot of second and long, third and long, second and medium, third and medium type of situations. So that way they can pin their ears back, send that blitz, and force Jalen to beat them from the pocket. On the Eagles side of things, like I said, I think that they'll pound the ball. They'll look to get an advantage of taking control of the tempo of the game by slowing everything down, as opposed to the Chiefs, higher power, higher tempo offense. And I think that they'll stick to their guns with that. This game will come down to which defense can stop the other team's offensive strengths. It'll also come down to who turns the ball over more and or who takes advantage of those turnovers best, if there are turnovers. So again, like I said, I see the under 45, 48 and a half, 48 being played here, because I don't see a whole lot of scoring happening. However, I won't be surprised if it does. Pretty much point blank bottom line. As far as the props are concerned, I forgot to pull that up real quick. Let me get that up here real quick. The props are something that people always look into at Super Bowl time, because there's literally, you can bet on everything from the color of the Gatorade, how long the national anthem will be. You'll see the different like the commercials. Who has the first commercial that will be played? There's literally so many different props for the Super Bowl. It gets insane at some point. But like, I'm scrolling down the list, and there's prop after prop after prop after prop after prop. So if you guys have any fun props that you're looking at, like this one right here is one that I'm thinking I may try to tackle. Total rushing attempts is at 59 and a half. Would you go over or under total rushing attempts? The whole game, both teams, 59 and a half. So they're saying either it's going to be 59 or less or 60.
I'd say go over.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because it's attempts. So even if they don't get no yards, it's still an attempt. So I would definitely go over. Because if you combine between both teams, Mahomes is going to run. You got two running backs on Kansas City, plus Worthy they use as a running back sometimes. On our side, same thing. Sometimes Devontae. We at least three running backs plus Jalen. So to say, I think 60 attempts is definitely. I think that's way low.
Now here's another one to go along with that. Total rushing yards is at 283 and a half, but this is the one that's the kicker. The 283 and a half is like, okay, because the attempts are so high, the rushing yards will be high, right? Here's the kicker. Total rushing touchdowns is only 2.5 for the game total, both teams. 2.5 rushing touchdowns. With that one, I'm thinking the over.
Yeah, because I think Saquon
thinking the over.
I think Saquon's getting 2. I don't know who's gonna get one on their side, but they're at least getting 1 rushing touchdown at least.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna say I'd be shocked if they didn't, but I would, because I think goal line, anything within the red zone, you're prone to try to do something. I think Mahomes isn't going to be able to throw the way people think he is. Like, he's not throwing for 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like,
right.
This is definitely a 1 or 2 touchdown game for him as far as throwing, and that's being respectful to who he is.
Right. Because see, the last time these two teams played, there were 4 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts had 3, and then I think it was Pacheco. Yeah, Pacheco had the other one for the Chiefs. I could see the same exact production in this game, 4 rushing touchdowns between the two teams, except I could see Saquon getting at least 1 or 2, maybe Jalen getting 1, and then at least another maybe 1 or 2 from somebody.
Either Pacheco, Worthy, or Hunt on the other side. I don't think all 3.
I would say Pacheco, Hunt, or Mahomes himself.
Yeah,
I would say Mahomes.
Worthy. So Worthy is that X factor that everybody's not
yes.
And I say when they drafted him, that was amazing for them. Amazing. And he's panned out all season to be exactly what I thought he was going to be for them. So
yeah, I'm so looking forward to this game, bro. Like big time. Like I want to be able to sit here and just enjoy it. And I think it's going to be a really good game. I think that, just for a Super Bowl, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of storylines and whatnot around this too. Will the Chiefs three-peat? Can the Eagles stop them? Will the Eagles finally break through and win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts at quarterback? Did the whole Saquon thing, pay off as far as signing him in free agency and also sitting him out that last game against the Cowboys and not going for the rushing record? There's guys like Kelsey who could be coming towards the end of his career. You got a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who's like a 10, 11-year vet in the league playing in his first Super Bowl. You got guys on the Eagles like Brandon Graham, who they just announced, I want to say today, that this is going to be his last NFL game, and he's hanging it up after this. So there's so many storylines, in this game, at one point this season, and you're an Eagles fan, you can speak to this. Like, there were Eagles fans who wanted to get rid of it. Well, not somewhat this season, but mainly last season, wanted to get rid of Nick Sirianni.
So I was gonna say, I think I said something in the space one day last week about this. But it's funny, right? This is what makes me feel like we're gonna win. It's because what we just saw with Ohio State. When the season ended, this is before the playoffs even started. Everybody was calling for Ryan Day's head in Ohio State. It was he got to go. Whatever bowl game we get, because they didn't think we were going to make the playoffs either. But they were like, he got to. If he win his bowl game, if he loses it, we don't care. He got to go. He took that Michigan loss and parlayed it into a national championship, and he at least got his job for another 3, maybe 4 years, maybe. I think 4 might be the stretch, but he's at least got it for another 2 to 3. And I think the same with Sirianni. I think he was definitely on his way out, and now getting Saquon, getting back to the Super Bowl. You win this, you got your job at least for another 3. You got to the Super Bowl twice in 3 years. You win 1. You bring us our second one. I think that secures your job at least for another 3 to 4. So, But he also put the right coordinators. Like he got it right this year with the coordinators. That was the biggest piece of it. It started out rocky at the beginning of the season because nobody liked the way Kellen Moore was doing what Kellen Moore normally does, and he won't run in the ball. I think somebody, I don't know if it was the media, I don't know if it was just him, but he realized, you know what? I got Saquon Barkley. What the fuck am I doing? Let's run this ball. And of course, a lot of the receivers that we do have are upset because, you know, they want the ball. Receivers are divas. So
yeah, I really think that there's gonna be times when, you know, like because I looked at, I think there was that one stretch, I'll say between that loss to the Falcons and the win over the Bengals, roughly between that stretch of games where Saquon bookended that like 6-inch stretch, that 6-game stretch with 22 carries. In between, he went from 22, 17, 10, 18, 17, 22, right? That next week against the Jags, even though they won that game against the Bengals, he had more carries. That game against the Jags, he had 27 carries. The game against the Cowboys, he only had 14, but y'all won. The Eagles won 34-6. The next games after that, 26, 26, 23, 20, 19, 29, 31. Those are the amount of carries that he ended up with the season with. So it wasn't really at the beginning. It was like that game 3 or 2 through 6 or 7 stretch roughly was when the offense wasn't clicking, and there was 2 losses in there. They won a couple of those games, but there were 2 losses in there as well. I think that stretch with those 2 losses, it kind of was like, hey, let's get back to the basics. Let's go back to what we wanted to do originally when we signed Saquon, when we built this offensive line, and let's just maul teams. And I think he had more confidence in not only Saquon and in that line, but just in Jalen Hurts and those receivers to say, hey, look, when I call on y'all, I'm going to need y'all. And I think that through the bickering and everything that those receivers had and whatnot throughout the season, being unhappy, mainly A.J. Brown, but I think that when they were called upon, they answered the call. And that's all you need from your quarterback and your receivers when you have an offensive line and a running back this talented. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I can't wait. I love the fact that we got, just to be honest with y'all, I love the fact that we got 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl again.
That's the best part of it all, to be
honest. Again. I'm just hoping that Jalen Hurts pulls it out this time. I would love to see the main reason why I want to see the Chiefs win is because I want them to three-peat. I want them to do something nobody's ever done because I want the total chaos of people saying that he could be the GOAT and Andy Reid could be the GOAT coach because they've done something that Brady and Belichick could never do. That does bring them to the forefront of the argument. Also, if the Eagles win, Hurts beating Mahomes is what the narrative will be, even though it's the Eagles beating the Chiefs. It'll be Hurts got a ring in the era in which Mahomes was winning all of his. And so that elevates, to me, call it what you want. He could throw for 175 yards and 1 touchdown in this game. He could only run for 50 yards and no touchdowns in this game. But his leadership and his performance puts him in a category to get talked about with the Burrows and the Mahomeses.
I'm gonna tell you something. It puts him up there
guys in the league.
It puts him up there with the Eli Mannings because Eli got his during Brady's tenure, where nobody else. How many? Eli.
I think it was Roethlisberger, Peyton, and
Eli 2.
I can't remember who. Eli got 2 though.
Yeah.
Eli got 2. Ben and Eli were the only quarterbacks in the Brady era to win multiple Super Bowls.
But it's a small class of people. While he was, you know what I mean? So same thing right now for this new age is while Mahomes is ring collecting and getting back, it's who's beating him in a sense. So it's like we got there. If you can at least get one off
mm-hmm.
of them, you can submit yourself.
Right. And I'm not even just talking about like as far as legacy is concerned, because he still has so much. Both of these guys have so much in their careers. Hopefully, knock on wood, pray to God. Like I really hope to see these guys for the next at least bare minimum 5-10 years plus. However, I'm talking about as far as top quarterbacks in the game right now today is concerned. You can no longer label him a running quarterback. You can't label him a gimmick quarterback because this is the second Super Bowl he's gotten his team to. Okay. So the first time you can say, okay, whatever. Look, whatever. No, he did it again. And if he wins it this time, I'm sorry, Birdman, you got to put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name. It's time to start talking about him as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If he can, I think it's starting to put him in the conversation to me just because he got back to the Super Bowl. But if he wins this one, it's time to start putting a whole different type of respect on Jalen Hurts' name and putting him into those conversations with these upper echelon quarterbacks. Say what you will about his style of play and the way his team wins. He wins games. He's a leader. That's what you want your quarterback to do. You want your quarterback to lead the team, to guide the offense, to do whatever it is that's necessary, whether it's throwing for 400 yards or if it's running for 120 yards. He can do both, and he's proven that he can do both. Mm-hmm. So let's stop. Let's stop with the narratives of he can't really pass the ball. He's not that this. The guy has proven he can do this on a major level. He's proven it again by getting back here. Stop with the bullshit narratives that y'all try to push just because you don't like him, or better yet, you don't like his style of play, or you don't like that team, the fans, whatever. It don't matter. Respect the craft and respect the guy who's doing the craft. And that's all I got to say about that, man. We didn't want to keep y'all long tonight because it was a lot of NBA trade. It was Super Bowl. You know what?
Not too much else been going on.
We'll resume women and men's college basketball and we'll resume other NBA talk and all of that kind of stuff.
If y'all know, we getting close to March. Y'all know what March means. Y'all know what March means in college basketball.
It's February, so we into the weeds of conference play, bro. We in the weeds of conference play, bro. Yeah. And it's good. It's getting real good. Like we've already seen like some ass whoopings and upsets this year in college basketball and conference play. And I'm excited for this stretch one, men's and women's side. Because this isn't one of those years in college basketball where you can say, like, I can see this team when I can see this team when I can see this team. Men's and women's, anybody can get it. There's at least 4, 5, 6 teams in both brands of college basketball where you can say, I can see that team winning the championship. And we haven't even touched on we're talking about the NBA trade deadline and all the moves. We haven't even spoken about all the stuff the WNBA and their offseason have been doing.
Bro, we ain't even tell you, bro. We gonna touch on that next week because I gotta make notes. I gotta make notes because if I don't make notes this week, I'm gonna forget about it next week. So we gotta make notes this week to make sure we touch because there's a lot of stuff that went down in the WNBA and it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it again this year. Parity in the WNBA got so crazy this week with not trades, but also a lot of free agents.
Exactly. It wasn't just trades; it was also free agency signings. So, bro, do you have a rant this week?
I don't.
I ain't even angry this week, bro. I'm just excited.
I'm not just excited. Now, Super Bowl don't go the way it's supposed to go. I'll have a rant next week.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'll have a rant.
Oh boy. Nah, we don't need that.
Bro. But until then, I'm in good spirits.
Bro, like I honestly. It'd be funny because I know I'll be messing with Keyz and stuff sometimes, but it'd be like, I just be like, I know how he gets. So sometimes I don't even have to push his button. His button already pushed. I just sit back and just, hey, Keyz, what you think? And then he just goes. So depending on how that game gonna go Sunday, is going. He may open the show with his rant, or he may not.
It just depends. I just said that one this
depends.
week. Like nothing in sports. This Luka thing has changed my like. There is nothing in sports that's pissing me off right now.
Bro, it ain't even I tell you, I put it to you like this. The only thing that's kind of pissing me off in like wrestling is like I'm waiting for AEW to start ramping it up. But what they did tonight with Ricochet and Swerve, I like that. And I'm gonna have to go back and watch it in full because I was trying to watch it while we on the pod and I couldn't really pay attention to it.
I should be at work in time to catch it. So I'll be able to catch the West. We got DirecTV, so I can catch the West Coast one.
Oh, you lucky motherfucker.
Yeah, man. So I can at least catch the West Coast. So
anyway, man, for my brother Keyz, for our sponsors over at Gel Blasters and Inplay Dogs, for the whole CDB Multimedia Network, for the Susio Boys Pie, for Dre Lags, for everybody. Make sure y'all following us on Twitter, man, because we have been having some excellent. Hold up, I gotta pause the outro music for that. Because one time for the crew for putting on some excellent
3 nights in a row. 3 nights
excellent
in a row.
Spaces.
We've had amazing music spaces where all 3 nights we've talked music for hours, and it has not been. I mean, we've had a couple like downtime because I mean it happens, but then it picks right back up.
Right,
and
right.
We talked about so much different stuff with music the last 3 nights that it's been fun for real. Like
the craziest thing
here, everybody's different perspective on music, all from different areas and regions. It's funny when we jump on people. We ain't gonna name names, but some of their music takes. It just be funny. So it's definitely been a great time. Hopefully we got another space going tonight. We're supposed to be doing something, but I'm not too sure if that's gonna go down. But we're still gonna have a music space regardless. So if you follow me, Jermaine,
make sure you're following Ahun.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow Ahun. Hold up. Let me pull it up right here so I can give y'all Ahun's Twitter. Because if you don't see me or Keyz, you'll probably see Ahun. Give me a second.
I'm putting it in right now.
I could have went there to the other one and got that. Damn it. Hold up. Hold up.
I just put it in the comments.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's A_Hun_ the Shogun on Twitter.
Follow him. He'll be the host of the space.
Follow Ahun and definitely give him a follow because he's going to be primarily the host of the music spaces that we've been having. And with all of the music spaces that we've had, the different topics and everything that we had, y'all have no idea because we got a whole slew of more topics and everything else to come. So just keep following the squad. Keep supporting us. Make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe button. Tell a friend. You know what, man? Tell your mama, your grandma, your auntie, and them too. For Keyz, I'm Jermaine. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. We'll holler at y'all next week. This is episode 64, Susio Sports.